So we could talk about what to do to encourage bees, even if you don't want to keep them yourself, because it's a fair amount of work and responsibility. But there's a lot of things that beekeepers, neighbors, and neighborhoods can do to just generally support that whole thing. Probably at the top of the list would be to really go easy and judicial with any kind of insecticide use, pesticide use. Herbicides to a lesser degree, but you know, there's about, out of all the insect species on the continent, about less than 1% are actually harmful to a significant degree, and that's to animals or plants. And so plants can absorb a fair amount of minor activity, and most of the insects out there are beneficial. Don't hammer them, and then you won't hurt the bees. If you do have to treat things, you can use some of the biorationals like BT or insecticidal soaps, things like that. Be very aware of what plants bees are attracted to, and don't treat those for sure. So that's a real straight up one, and it's easier on the pocketbook. Another thing would be to then go to the next step and plant things that bees like, and sometimes that's as easy as just encouraging what wants to grow. Wild mallow, bees will go to that. It grows as a weed, perennial, kind of pretty. There you go. Sunflowers, fruit trees, some of the larger shade trees like the Japanese pagoda tree or the golden rain tree. I think bees and trees co-evolve together a lot, and flowering trees can really support a lot of bees, so don't forget about that. A lot of shrubs. Think about seasonality too, and there are lists out there, and you can find them, I think, through the Extension Service and through probably the Beeks website even, and then BKA website, that have lists of plants that tell you time of season that they bloom, and size, flower color, other things like that. So you can find a nice palette of landscaping plants that are helpful. Water is a really good one. You know, hopefully any responsible beekeeper is providing water for their own bees, but there's also a lot of feral bees out there, and we want to give them something too, and the native bees that aren't honeybees. So, you know, stock tanks with water in them, or I've used 5-gallon chicken waterers with rocks in there to give the insects something to land on. It's a desert, and we don't have a lot of standing water naturally, so that's helpful in a lot of ways. Other things you can do is don't freak out when you see bees in your landscape, and you know, especially if they're on flowers and they're foraging, they could almost care less that you exist. If you get stung, it's probably because you bumped into one and she couldn't help it. But sometimes you'll see a mass of bees, what we call a swarm, and it's just a huge rummage pile of bees where there are thousands of bees in a mass. And it can be kind of alarming. Certainly there's a lot of them flying around too, and but it turns out biologically that that's really when they're their most docile. They need a home, they have nothing to defend, and the best thing to do at that point then is to contact somebody who can pick up a swarm. And you can go to the Beeks website and find lists. You can call City 311 and they can give you contact information for how to find a swarm. And there's a lot of beekeepers that would like free bees. These are all swarm bees here that were just caught and put in a hive and off they go.